Dun, 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 dun. Well guys, since it's Shark Week this week, and we just passed the 40th anniversary of this classic movie, I figured what better time than to talk to you guys about one of my all-time favorite films. Not only am I reviewing the first one, I will review all three of the sequels. So, let's get started. Jaws is the 1975 blockbuster classic movie based on the Peter Benchley novel that stars Roy Scheider, Robert Shaw, Richard Dreyfuss, and is of course directed by the great Steven Spielberg. A great white shark starts stalking beachgoers off the coast of Amity Island, and it is up to Roy Scheider's character Chief Brody, Matt Hooper played by Richard Dreyfuss, and Quint played by Robert Shaw to go on Quint's boat called the Orica and hunt down and kill the shark. Now, I love this movie. This is one of my all-time favorite movies. This movie is probably the reason I am sitting here right now talking about movies. More than any other movie, even the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which was another huge influence, and Signs, which was another one. I remember being 10 years old, and my friend was going to stay over the night, and we wanted to rent a movie. So we went to the video store. Yes, this is back in the ancient times when you went to video stores instead of online. And so we wanted to watch Jaws, and I remember begging my mom to let me watch this movie, and she finally gave in. And so we watched this movie, and I was blown away. Yeah, this was like my gateway drug into loving movies and horror films, because this is also the first horror movie I ever saw. Also, I remember after this wanting to watch every Steven Spielberg movie that I could. Because before this, I'd only seen E.T. Yes, I hadn't even seen Raiders of the Lost Ark. I don't know what the hell was wrong with me either. So, to make this quick, I'm a huge fan of this movie. My first DVD I ever owned was Jaws, and I even got the 30th anniversary edition. I own all three of the sequels, and I just got the first one on Blu-ray. I read the book when I was 11 years old, and yeah, the movie's actually better than the book. And I've played the NES game, and I also have the Jaws Unleashed video game where you play as the shark for PS2. I'm a fan, guys. This movie can be really credited with making Spielberg a name. It's really weird thinking about how when this movie was being made, no one knew who Spielberg was, and the studio wasn't even sure they could trust him in making this movie because he wasn't a proven director yet. He'd made one TV movie, which was really good, called Duel, and one limited theatrical film called The Sugarland Express. So really, this was his chance to prove himself, and oh boy, did he prove himself with this movie. Spielberg's directing this movie is genius. One of the most known stories about this movie is that the mechanical shark hardly ever worked, and so they had to improvise and do other things to imply the shark being there. For instance, using a point of view shot underwater of the shark going towards a swimmer that it was gonna eat. Another great sequence in this movie is when the second death happens. At this point, only one death has occurred, and Brody is convinced that there probably is a shark out there. But the mayor, Larry Vaughn, convinces him that, you know what, it was probably a one-time thing if it was a shark, or it's more likely a boat propeller or something. We don't know it was a shark. Don't cause a panic. Just let it go. The way they shot this scene was brilliant because half of it is Brody watching the water and watching people swim out in the water. Like one person is swimming and then there's a shadowy dark figure behind it and he's wondering, wait, is that the shark? What is that? But it turns out to be another swimmer. And when the death actually does happen, he uses a great shot technique called the push and pull. And it's a shot that Alfred Hitchcock used a lot, like in his movie Vertigo, for instance. Essentially, the idea of the shot is that it zooms in on a person as the camera's being pulled away, so it gives this really cool effect that just signifies dread and suspense and horror. And it just makes the scene so much scarier. Also, you, again, don't get a close-up of the shark, but you see it from far away attacking this boy, and it's brilliantly shot that way. Also, Carl Gottlieb, who wrote the screenplay for this movie, wrote the characters really well. One of the great character arcs of Brody, our main character, is that he's afraid of the ocean. Even though he's a police chief on an island, he's still afraid as crap of the ocean. So then eventually when he gets on the Orica to go and destroy the shark with the other two, it's a great harrowing moment for the character because he's starting to overcome his fear of the water. The way he wrote the bonding scenes between these three guys was so great. How they have a scene in the cabin where Quint and Hooper are starting to compare their scars and stuff, and it earns Hooper respect for Quint and Quint respect for Hooper. Also, I love the character of Quint being this salty, just hardcore fisherman guy who you can tell has seen a few things just by the way he acts and talks. He knows his stuff, and you learn a bit about that later on, and I'll talk about that scene later because that scene is brilliant. Another one of my favorite scenes in this movie is when Quint is talking about his experience on the USS Indianapolis, which is of course the ship that brought over the atom bomb to Japan. It is based on fact that the ship was shot by a Japanese torpedo and sunk, and the surviving men had to survive in the water with sharks for 5 days. He goes into such great detail about how horrifying that would be, saying lines like, the thing about a shark, it's got lifeless eyes, black eyes like a doll's eyes. It comes at you, doesn't seem to be living until it bites you, and those black eyes roll over white, and then you get that terrible high-pitched screaming. The ocean turns red, and despite all the pounding and the hollering, they all come in and rip you to pieces. Yes, I actually know the speech almost by heart. Also, because I'm not a complete moron, and I know that I have to talk about this when talking about this movie, John Williams' score to this movie, just those 2 notes, just sends fear up your spine. The dun-dun-dun-dun. Dun, 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 dun. It's so perfect. It's iconic. It's terrifying. And that's another thing that adds to the terror of this movie when they're not showing the shark. Just playing those 2 notes when you're in the water or on a boat or whatever just adds to the terror. It makes it scary without showing the shark, and it's perfect. Also, I want to give a shout out to the Blu-ray of this movie. It's a great transfer and definitely worth picking up if you don't already own it on Blu-ray. It's one of the best Blu-ray transfers I've seen. It's actually a really cool documentary about the restoring of this, and you can see it on YouTube. It's called Jaws, the Blu-ray restoration. And Spielberg's there, and I swear he says like at least 5 times, like, oh, it'll be the same movie itself. We're not changing anything in the movie. I just thought that was funny because it's really like he's saying, guys, I'm not going to George Lucas this. It's not going to be like E.T. I'm not going to make the shark be CGI or change the gun at the end to walkie-talkies or something stupid like that. Don't worry, I'm not crazy anymore. So to quickly wrap this up, Jaws is a bona fide classic. This is on movie buff lists with like The Sound of Music, 2001: A Space Odyssey, The Godfather, and Lawrence of Arabia. It's considered one of the greatest movies of all time by fans, by film buffs, by critics, by film historians, by pretty much everyone who's seen it. I've shown it to some of my friends who had never seen it before, and not one of them ever said this was a bad movie. And these are people who don't even like horror movies, so go beyond that. Let's go beyond the fact that this is a horror movie. It transcends that genre, because it is a character movie, it is a drama about a shark, it's an adventure movie. It's not just there to be scary, it's all about the adventure of going after the shark, and the characters, and you're rooting for the characters. So even if you're not for horror movies, even if you're against horror movies, check it out, okay? Give it a chance, because this movie is one of the best movies ever made. It's a bona fide classic, as I already said. It's just a masterpiece, and I'd be really surprised if you didn't like it. In fact, if you have seen it and don't like it, I would love to hear from you in the comments section, because I'd be fascinated to know why. Please tell me, like, I legitimately want to know. I love this movie. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. And of course, I'm going to give it 5 out of 5 stars. Guys, if you haven't seen Jaws, this is the perfect time to see it. Middle of the summer, Shark Week. The 40th anniversary just happened a couple weeks ago. So definitely check this movie out. You will not be sorry. It's a brilliant movie. So if you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe. See ya.